All right, so it's the second day of the month of Mar Cheshvan, Tafshin Pei Aleph, and we are studying the book of Shmuel, Bet, the second book of Shmuel, and we are at chapter 1, and we are verse 18. So the situation we find ourselves in is after the death of Saul and his sons, most notably Jonathan, the oldest and the heir to the throne, in the war against the Philistines. And David is being told that this is the situation, that's what happened. And he right away starts mourning, and he's just eulogizes Saul. So first we got to understand why eulogy now. I mean, there are a lot of people, a lot of good people died, unfortunately. The Bible is full of people that died. I mean, everybody that is written in the Bible didn't survive. So not all of them are eulogized, and definitely not in such length. So why is David feels compelled to eulogize the Saul and Jonathan, Shaul and Jonathan? So and even if he did, why are the Shmuel, or not Shmuel, the prophet Nathan, who authored the book of Shmuel, why did he feel compelled to print it forever, for generations? The only reason we put things in the Tanakh is because it has implications and a message for generations. It has a message for us. It has a message for all Jews at all time, the whole world at all time. So what is the point here? So the point here is that what happened now with Saul is a turning point in the relationship between God and His miracles and the Jewish people. And it's a change which is not, it was predicted, but it's not a positive one. Until now, everything that was occurring to the Jews in the land of Israel was miraculous. Being there, staying there, it was 400 years of miracles, a bunch of slaves crossing the desert, coming over, taking over 7 nations, taking over 31 nations actually. 7 nations, big ones, and 30 ones, smaller ones, starting an agricultural society after 210 years that they didn't do anything but building pyramids or whatever they were building there, slaving around, and so they're creating a state, a country, with a lot of miracles, with a lot of support from heaven, from God. And here suddenly we see a complete failure of the system. It was a total defeat. The king is dead, the heir to the throne is dead, the next one in line is dead, the next one in line is dead. Many soldiers lost their lives, and it's devastating. And it's not at all rational. And we will see why it's not rational, because based on, you compare, heavyweights, and you have a heavyweight and you have a lightweight, and suddenly the lightweight wins. That's irrational. It didn't make sense that we lost the war. And this is what David is eulogizing. But even more, it's not just to mark the fact that it's a turning point in the relationship. It's an actual suggestions of or directive. This is what we ought to do, because now that Saul is dead, we will see after the eulogy, David is being anointed. David is taking the reins. So when David is taking the reins, he needs to know what to do. he needs to let the people know what he is intending to do in order to deal with this situation. So what he's starting to say is, listen, miracles are out, nature is in. We are not anymore, we don't deserve anymore open miracles like we were having until now, because we didn't really act properly according to the rules of the halacha. And therefore, we all need to take the route of, you can't just sit there and wait for a miracle, you have to do something about it. And doing something about it is basically building an army. Building an army, training an army, no more, bunch of former slaves that became farmers, that now all they have is, a chicken feed to fight with. It's you need an army. You need people who can actually shoot and kill. And so that's number one. Number two, David is preparing them. Until now, from the time we entered the land of Israel, we had 17 or 15 or 12, I forgot how many, but we had a bunch of judges. And the judges were from different tribes. We had from Binyamin and from Menashe and from Zvulun and from Asher, all kinds of, almost all of the tribes contributed a judge to that period of close to 400 years. However, at this point, the baton is being transferred and given to the tribe of Yehudah, the tribe of the King Melech David, right? The tribe of David, and that is the tribe that is going to lead the Jewish people for the next several hundred years, and he will be the primary leader. And second, that is the tribe that will actually survive the several wars and the loss of the 10 tribes and exiles. And right now, most of the Jewish people right now are from the tribe of Judah. You have the Levites, a few Levites and the Kohanim from the tribe of Levi. You have a few from the tribe of Benjamin, very few. You have one, here and there, a handful of others that were sort of came after the lost tribe were lost, and they came back somehow, they found their ways. So you had a few of those, but 90-some-odd% of the Jewish people nowadays are from the tribe of Yehudah. So this is the beginning of the shift, and therefore the eulogy is very important. And David is explaining the whole reasoning for the shift. And so he's saying, the first thing that he says, we started it last time, we mentioned it, that the first thing we need to do is we need to teach the tribe of Benjamin, we need to teach them how to be soldiers. We need to teach them how to be archers. Archery was the best weapon at the time, because you didn't need to have face-to-face. You can do it from afar. You can sharpshooters, they have time to breathe, and that was the best weapon of the time. And we need them to have. We need the tribe of Judah to be very good with the archery, with the bows and arrows. And then he goes to why. Why? Because we lost the war, and it's inexplicable, and it doesn't make sense. And why did it happen? Why? In the next few sentences, we will see that the main line of discussion here is, why did we lose it? Why? I mean, how? What's going on? No answers. So we'll start. The first verse in the eulogy after the bottom line, which is let's build an army. Hatzvi Israel al bamotecha chalal ech naflu giborim. This is the most famous sentence that's being recited in Yom HaZikaron, and when you have Memorial Days in Israel. So the way it's translated here, your glory, O Israel, lies slain in your heights. and how have the mighty fallen. Okay? איך נפלו גיבורים, how have the mighty fallen. The Tzvi Israel al Bamotecha Chalal is not exactly translated the way the commentaries are translating it. This is, I don't know, this is the idea here. But Hatzvi Israel, Hatzvi has two explanations. One of them is Hatzvi means the land of Israel. The land of Israel failed because we failed to protect it. And number two, Hatzvi means the situation, the status, the state of Israel, not state from country, but state as a situation. The state of Israel has changed. What did it change? It says Al Bamotecha Chalal. Bamotecha means a podium, heights, right? Abime, right? Abime is a podium, right? Is an raised area. What happened here? One of the tallest mountains in the land of Israel is Mount Gilboa. This is where we had the war, and this is where we lost it. So we were in the best strategic location in the area, and we are strong, very strong, mighty army, mighty people, compared to the Philistines at the moment that lost several wars against us in the past few years, and the past 3 years, lost 4 wars, and they coming from a very disadvantaged plain. They're coming from the bottom of the mountain, and we were there on top. How do you lose such a position? You know, all you got to do is just throw stones, you know, and you win. And we didn't do that. So this is the quandary here. How did that happen? And this question is coming again and again and again, and it comes here to make people think that something changed. You know, what did I do wrong to deserve this? Definitely I did something wrong. Otherwise, you know, God would not just decide and wake up on the wrong side of the bed. You know, there is a reason for it. So what is the reason for it? We will see. So the next sentence is more poetic. And I talk with authority because I got in poetry I got 6. So you know. So Al tagidu begat, al tevasru bechutzot Ashkelon. So this sentence really is divided to 4 sections. Okay, and it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and the section it connects as follows. Section 1 connects to section 3, and section 2 connects to section 4. Such is poetry. So it says, Al tagidu begat, don't tell, don't say, don't proclaim, but it's not proclaim. Tagidu is a softer proclamation. It's just say, don't tell. Don't tell in Gat. Gat was the capital city of the Philistines at the time. So it said, don't tell the story, try to hide the information from the Philistines. Something happened here. We lost the war. Obviously, it's not, you know, it's wishful thinking because the winners will send home information that they won the war. But he's sort of saying, please don't spread the news because it's bad news. It says, don't tell the story in Gat, in the capital city. I'll skip section 2 and I'll go to section 3. It says, Pen tismachna bnot plishtim. Why shouldn't we tell the story in Gat? So the daughters of the Philistines are not going to rejoice, are not going to be happy, because now we lost the war, right? They won and we lost. And then section 2, it says, Al tevasru bechutzot Ashkelon. Chutzot Ashkelon, now, Al tevasru means don't proclaim, don't really announce in a very strong way, bringing news here. Let me tell you the good news. That's the difference between to leagid, to tell, and to proclaim. Leagid is, I'm giving you the information, such and such happened. Okay. And to proclaim is, you know, you're coming with a message with an agenda. So what happened in the capital city, they came with the news and they announced the news. But by the time it moved from the capital city to the largest city, which was Ashkelon, not far from God, that's over there, it's already rejoicing. Over there, it's like, we won World War II, it's and everybody is emptying to the streets and celebrating. So initially the information comes as just information to the capital city. By the time it comes to the countryside, so to speak, to the large cities and the countryside, then it's already celebration. And let's read the fourth section. Penta loznav notarelim. Here it's not just rejoicing. This is like exalting. It's dancing in the streets. It's going bananas from happiness. So he's basically saying this news that we lost is going to reverberate around the world, around the Philistines' country and then beyond, and it's going to be announced in such a way that it will cause all of the haters to not only be happy but also to celebrate in the streets. So, and then he's mentioning Harei Bagilboa al matar ve'al matar alechem uzdei trumot. He says the place that all of this happened, that place is the mountain of Har Gilboa, as we mentioned before, right? So that mountain, Har Gilboa, is basically being cursed. It's being cursed by David. So it's not going to rain there. It's not going to have dew over there. And it's never going to be able to produce enough wheat from a field so people can take tithe, can take truma from it. The bottom line is the place is cursed. And till this very day, if you visit the land of Israel and you take a trip in the Galil and you pass by Mount Gilboa, one side of the mountain is bare. There's nothing growing over there. It can rain today, tomorrow, nothing grows over there. It's very dry. And even the areas that do have some vegetations, it's very small, meager, and it's nothing. There are no tall trees like Mount Carmel, or other mountains in Israel have trees all over. Gilboa, no. So it was cursed. So anybody who passes by will always remember, will look at the mountain and say, that's our first defeat, our first big defeat happened here, and that's where history changed. And Kisham Nigal, the next part of the verse is Kisham Nigal Magen Giborim. Why am I cursing Mount Gilboa? Because over there, Nigal Magen Giborim. What is Nigal Magen Giborim? It's it was rejected. I don't know, maybe rejected. It's not such a good word. Magen Giborim is the shield, okay, and Magen Shaul is the shield of Saul, and it says Bli Mashiach Bashemen. It does not have oil. What does it all mean? Okay, in the olden days they used to wear not bulletproof vests, but whatever the best, the next best thing, which was armor. Okay, and it was heavy and it was hard to move around with. Underneath that armor, they had some something. It's some piece of clothing from very thick leather that is easier to move with, to move around with, and it was all smeared with oil. It was covered with oil, so if you have arrows that are penetrating the armor, it will slip on the second level and not going to penetrate and protect the soldier. So people would walk around with those leather that's covered with oil and on top of it armor. So what happened here is, it says that armor of Shaul is no more, doesn't have any more oil. There's, it used to slip. All of the trouble used to slip through, slip away and fall by wayside. Now no more. There is no more oil there, and therefore it penetrated and caused this tragedy of the death of Saul. And the word Nigal has also two meanings. In Hebrew, nig'al means mag'il means disgusting. Okay, the disgusting and not something you're attractive. So what happened here? The shield of the heroes and the shield of Saul became disgusting. Why did it become disgusting? It's because the second explanation to the word nig'al. If you've ever been in Israel on Erev Pesach, you know that you have, in a religious area especially, a place where you can come and kosher your dishes. You know, you want to kosher the dishes for Pesach, so it's called Hagalat Kilim. Hagalat Kilim means koshering of the dishes. How do you usually kosher the dishes? You put it in very hot water, boiling water, or if it's certain kind of dish in with a burner to make it all red. Skewer, you have to actually make red, with actual fire. Why does it call Hag'ala? Because what's disgusting here? What happens is when you use a utensil, a dish, the food gets in there. The stuff is in there. That's why something which is non-kosher, if you ate in a dish, a non-kosher food, not kosher Pesach food, you can eat on Pesach using the same dish because it has some of the stuff in there. So when you put the dish through or the utensil through the same process that swallowed the food, it throws up the food. Throw it out. It puts it out. It's rejecting it. Okay, so that's why it's called agalat kilim, because all the food that was in there, it's disgusting. Now, if you ate something and then all of your lunches from the past year or dinners surface, that's disgusting. That's why it's called agalat kilim, because you're making the dish, all of the disgusting stuff that's in there is coming out. So what happened is that oil that was in that shield that was protecting is now being rejected, coming out, and therefore it's no longer effective. And the armor that we had, the thin armor that they had, was not effective. That's the idea here. So David is saying he is cursing the Mount of Gilboa because over there we had this situation that our thin armor did not work anymore, and therefore, going back to the first sentence, we need a good army. And then he starts by two verses that he's combining and eulogizing both Shaul and Yonatan together, and then another couple of verses where he's eulogizing them separately. Okay? Now, here we have also the same structure of the poetry that we mentioned before. The poem that we mentioned before. This pasuk is also divided to 4 sections, and we're going section 1 with 3, section 2 with 4. So the first section is midam chalalim. It's the blood of the slain. The third section is keshet Yonatan lo nasogacho. Is the point here is that Yonatan was an expert in archery. He was a very, very talented archer, very sharp shooter. And Saul was very good with a sword. He was big, he was tall, he was strong, and he would just go face to face and will smite anybody who gets close to him. Now, when you fight with a sword, if you see a taller person, a bigger person, or after a while, you get scared and you withdraw. When you're using the archer, the bow and arrow to kill people, eventually you see the blood, and that those people are usually they're not it's like today people can sit and with the drones and they press buttons and they don't really see the consequences of what they did. But with the bow, eventually you do see the consequences, and there is a lot of blood coming out as a result of good targeting, and that is also repulsive to some people and say, enough killing. So what he's saying here, we had leading this army two extremely talented heroes. One of them is Jonathan, who was an extremely good archer, and another one is Saul, who was extremely good with the sword. And they never backed down. And therefore, again, the question, why did it all happen? They never backed down. So from the blood of the slain, the bow of Jonathan did not back off. And from the what happens, the way they kill, it's gory, so I mean, forgive me, but I didn't write it. There is the blood that comes out when a bow hits someone, but when someone is being chopped with a sword, it's not only blood, you see the inside guts, which is chelev, which is the fat that exists inside the gut. So the chelev, the fat of the warrior, did not reject or did not cause Saul to withdraw empty-handed. So again, we have midam chalalim, keshet Yonatan lo nasog, and midam giborim, and from the michelev giborim, from the fat of the warriors, the sword did not back down. And then he's mentioning something which is sort of to set the record straight. If you recall, we all know that David and Jonathan were very good friends. And at one point, Jonathan was covering for David, right? He knew that Saul is trying to get David and trying to kill him. And Jonathan knew that if he's going to come to the Rosh Chodesh Seudah, at the palace, he may not end up going back home. So he told Jonathan the story, please cover for me, I'm going to go. And so Jonathan says, I'm going to go ask my father. I mean, I know him, I'm dealing with, I'll let you know. You stay here. So the whole story with the that they made a sign that Jonathan is going to come and he's going to shoot the bows, the arrows, he's going to shoot the arrows. If you're going to shoot it further, it means you have to run away. If you're going to shoot it, between them, that means that you can come home. So we see here that Jonathan was really good with the bow and arrows, right? And so it's from before. It's not just here mentioned. But what happens is Jonathan went for the first day and he said, Jonathan David went home to his family, and he asked me, and I okayed it. Now Rosh Chodesh was 2 days, like today, like this Rosh Chodesh, right? And the second day they again gathered, and again Jonathan was not there. Saul was upset already, and so he's starting to get angry at David why he's not there. So Jonathan stands up and says, "What do you want from him, Dad? What do you want from him?" So the dad is not happy. He takes his spear and tried to target his son Jonathan, and Jonathan he misses, and Jonathan just leaves the room very upset. So one can think that Saul and Jonathan were in conflict. We're not, had some sort of a disagreement, especially in regards to David. So David wants to set the record straight that Saul and Jonathan, Aneavim v'Aneimim, they loved each other, and they were pleasant to each other, and they were beloved by each other, and they were always together. B'chayehem u'b'motam. Again, it's one of the most famous verses that we use when, unfortunately, soldiers or terrorist attack victims are killed. It says, "B'chayehem u'b'motam lo nifradu." In their life and in their death, they were not separated. They were always together. And again, another very famous verse, "Minisharim kalu me'arayot gaveu." They were lighter than eagles, meaning they can fly higher, and they were stronger than lions. Again, to really stress the question, how in the world did that happen? They were together. They had unity. They loved each other. They were great people. They were strong people. They were giborim. He mentioned like 4 or 5 times the word giborim, heroes. And they had the ability to soar more than any other eagle, and to be strong more than any other lion, and nonetheless it died. Now he eulogizes Saul separately, and what he's saying to Saul is he's saying, "Bnot Israel el Shaul bechena," that the daughters of Israel should cry after Saul. Now, there is a hint here. What started the whole jealousy of Saul with David? What started it? It started right after David killed Goliath. Right after
David married his wife, right?
He ended up marrying his daughter, his daughter, right? But the jealousy started as soon as they came back from the war against Goliath. What happened then is the just like Lahavdil, the daughters of the Philistines here are dancing in the street. So what happened then is the daughters of the Jewish people were dancing, and they were singing songs that didn't really have a place. They sang Hika Shaul ve'alafav David bervivotav. They sang that Saul smited the thousands, but David, he smited tens of thousands. So they were putting down Saul because the hero of the war was not Saul. The hero of the war was David. He killed Goliath. And that kind of a song triggered the anger and the jealousy of Saul, and that started a snowball effect that became worse and worse and worse and worse. So now they were singing before. Now they're the same people, the same Bnot Israel who were singing and sort of starting this whole terrible landslide are now going to be crying instead of dancing, and they were saying, why should you be crying and mourning? Because Saul lived, was ruling for 2.5 years or so. Okay, even though it was a small period, a short period of time, during that period of time, we had it good. We had it all good. We were wearing one of the signature of people who were having it good. They dressed nicely. They have they really are walking around with the best clothes. So he said he was the one who dressed you up shanim adanim. He was dressing you up with very nice red clothes, and that caused adanim. Adanim is delight. It caused those who were wearing these kind of silky, beautiful clothes, feel good, and their body feels like it's being treated well. So that's one of the reasons they should be crying, because no more. Saul is no more. And and he also was Saul had he made sure to take care of two classes of people. The women that their husbands went to the war, he made sure that they're okay. If somebody got lost, God forbid, he took care of them. And those who didn't have money, the poor girls who didn't have money for dowry and they needed to get dressed, he had a gmach, he had a fund to support these type of people. So, and that fund was not just giving them the basics. It was giving them jewelry, golden jewelries to hang. Adi is some sort of a chain, a golden chain to put on top of your great, amazing red clothes, to make sure that they can get married. So now, all of that, these 2.5 years of wealth and amazingness are lost. And the reason they were so wealthy is because for years and years and years, the Philistines were draining the wealth of the Jewish people. They were using them as a as a bank, and whenever they could, they would loot, they would levy taxes, and in one fell swoop, when Saul overcame the Philistines the first time, all this wealth came back. So, so the people used it. Saul didn't just keep it to himself in a Swiss bank account. He used it for the benefit of the people. And then he continues, "Ech naflu giborim betoch hamilchama." So all these heroes, how did they die in the thick of battle, in the thick of war? Yonatan al bamotecha halal. Again, now he's eulogizing Yonatan specifically. He's saying that he was, if everybody was on a mountain, on the top, on a podium, he was on top of that. He was the top of the top. Yonatan al bamotecha halal. You slain on the heights of heights. You were slain. And then he's mentioning Tsar li alecha achi Yonatan. Now it becomes a little more personal and say, my brother Yonatan. If you recall, before they at a certain point, when they were when we mentioned the Rosh Chodesh meal, that Yonatan and David were trying to figure out, if it's safe for Yonatan to come back or not. So that was the point when they separated, after they realized that that David has to run away because Saul is after him and he's not going to be able to survive in the palace. So they struck a deal, a covenant. And Yonatan knew at the time that David is destined for glory. And he was asking him, let's be together, let's strike. They really liked each other. Na'amta li me'od. So David is telling you, you were very pleasant to me, you were very loving to me. Nifla'a vatcha li me'avat nashim. That it's wonderful, and it's sort of unusual, this kind of love, more than the love of women. What's happening here is that, especially in those days, when royalty got married, they made sure they were very selective as to who they're going to marry, and they try to marry someone who's fit royalty, but not more than them. When the royals of England and France got married, there was always a discussion who's more important. And so when royalty got married here, it was very important to get someone who's can fit the family, but not too much. So they were married down, so to speak. And here, so that was common, especially in those days, for royalty to be selective and to look after the lineage, to sort of find exactly the level, like 1 or 2 levels down. Okay, I'll marry you. Now, but when they had friends, when you have friends, you typically, some people like friends that are, that they can influence, but good friends are people who are better than you, right? People who are at a higher level, so you can learn from them, you can admire them. That's the best friend, right? It's someone you can follow. And here, David is saying that Yonatan chose, instead of him as a friend, instead of choosing somebody high, Yonatan in David, in his eyes, was at a much lower level than Yonatan. David was considered amongst his own family an outcast. He was the 7th child. He was, sent to away to be a shepherd. Just go to the desert and be with the sheep, and maybe God will help, and the lion will eat you and will get rid of you. That was the attitude of his own family. So David was not royalty. He didn't come from royalty, even though his family is important family. But amongst in his family, he was at the lowest rank possible. And here, the heir to the throne, the son of the king, the oldest son of the king, the most successful guy, he's the head of the Sanhedrin. He is my friend, and not only just a friend, casual friend, a friend like a brother. So David felt that Yonatan did something very, very extraordinary for connecting with him, and this verse is coming to eulogize and to cry and to be sad for the loss of this love of this friendship, of this relationship that Yonatan and David had. And here it's finishing again. Ech naflu giborim, again the fourth or the fifth time. Ech, how is the mighty fallen? V'yavdu klei milchama, and the weapons of war perished. They were considered the weapons of war, not the swords. Yonatan and Saul were considered the weapons of war. Okay, so this is the end of the eulogy. We're going to start a little bit, and then we're going to go. We have a whole very interesting stuff next time. Very interesting stuff. Well, but let me just. What?
I have a question.
Yes.
David and Saul were not the friendliest of relationship between the two of them.
Correct.
I am wondering, just a thought, that maybe it was his love of Jonathan that he felt he couldn't do a proper eulogy of Jonathan without also eulogizing his father. And the point of this was to eulogize Jonathan, but not throw any shade on Saul.
David, despite of the fact that Saul was chasing him and he was really suffering from it, had tremendous respect for Saul. He called him, just few verses last time we went through it, he called Saul Mashiach Hashem, the Messiah, the messenger of God. He had tremendous respect for him, and you will see in the very next verse that we're going to learn. He was not sitting there with booze or with or waiting for him to go away. He felt that Saul was selected, which was the case, was selected by God to lead the Jewish people, and therefore he had tremendous respect for him throughout. He had two opportunities to kill him. He was, arm's length away from him, and he didn't touch him. He just wanted to be left alone. But he knew that Saul had very amazing strength, might not have been channeled properly at the end of his life for reasons that are, had to do with the fact that he became a king too early by the request of the people rather than by request of God. Had they waited a few months, God would have selected him, and Saul would be Melech Israel Chai V'Kayam. He would be the king of Israel forever and ever. But the fact was that the Jews insisted, we want like next door, we want like the Philistines, a king. But David had tremendous. So I wouldn't say that this is just a way to get him, to not diss Saul. It was genuine. He was really genuine. So I think the rabbi, here we go. So the rabbi is here. We'll continue next time in chapter 2. Thank you, guys.